Hey loves, welcome to The Quick Tip.
I'm your host, Dejada.
And I'm Kamisha, and we are a part of the team at Sista Afya Community Mental Wellness in Chicago. The Quick Tip is a podcast where we discuss relatable topics in Black women's mental wellness.
We provide thoughtful reflections, quick tips, and leave you with some things to take action on to improve your mental wellness.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Quick Tip Podcast. This is your co-host Kamisha.
I'm Dejada. And I'm Dr. Kimani.
And today we are going to be talking about a subject that is extremely important. And so I know, like probably many of us can recall when we had a bad job throughout our adulthood. And working in toxic and conflictual job environments can impact our mental health, our physical health, our self-worth, and our hopefulness. Unfortunately, there are thousands of Black women struggling at work, from being the only one in the room, being unsupported in their professional growth and development, and being overworked and underpaid. We are fortunate to have Dr. Kimani Norrington Sands, a clinical psychologist, helping and healing Black women who work in toxic jobs. We are eager to learn from Dr. Kimani's experience supporting Black women to leave toxic jobs and have fulfilling lives. If you are struggling at work and are looking for ways to exit, this is the episode for you. So about Dr. Kimani. Dr. Kimani is a licensed clinical psychologist and the CEO of Lifting As We Climb Consulting, with more than 15 years of experience providing mental health and consultation services in community-based agencies as well as schools. Dr. Kimani focuses on helping Black women leave toxic jobs so that they can have abundant and fulfilling lives through building community online with women across the U.S. Dr. Kimani is a magna cum laude graduate of Spelman College and obtained her master's as well as her PhD in clinical psychology with a multicultural community clinical emphasis from the California School of Professional Psychology. Dr. Kimani, welcome to the Quick Tip Podcast.
Most welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me to be here today.
Yeah, so we have been ready, Jada and I, for this conversation with you, and are grateful that you're spending time with us today. But if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to focus on supporting Black women to leave toxic jobs.
Absolutely. And I wanted to also say I appreciate sharing space with my Spelman sister. But, when we think about sisterhood and we think about, where we came from, right? Just in terms of our personal history, we think about Spelman, we think about all the things that were poured into us in terms of knowing our greatness. So being grounded in greatness really helped inform the work that I'm doing. So knowing that, having that positive sense of self-worth, going into the workplace, knowing that I have the skills and everything that I need in this space, but experienced a lot of disrespectful, demoralizing behaviors, and even something I created a term, and I hope it's not offensive to the audience, but I created a term called psychological lynching. So for me, this is exactly what I experienced. So in the workplace, I was experiencing so many assaults that it caused a lot of harm to me. So physically, I was having symptoms. I was having psychological symptoms, all these different things, but it was an attempt to put me in my place. Even though I had the skills and talents and all these other things, doing all these wonderful things, glowing evaluations, still being put in my place. And we might talk about that a little bit more in terms of what that looks like in terms of being put in your place. But part of the psychological lynching also is that it gets in your head and it starts making you think there's something wrong with you, or did you do something wrong, right? So you start internalizing some of it, but thank God, I had a positive sense of self-worth about who I am, that I was able to counter that, right? And I was able to see kind of what was happening. So, I was like, they are full out attacking me. And the term that I came up with it is not only were they in my head, but they were trying to humiliate me in front of other people. So they're trying to humiliate me and show me as an example. So you see her, she got out of line. This is what can happen to you too. So through my own healing journey, so I was going through all these horrible things in the workplace. I took a leave of absence, and I talk about my whole story on some of the videos. Like Stephanie Perry interviewed me on Black Women at Toxic Jobs, and Glam Mazzini also interviewed me. And if you want to hear the full story, I go into it during that. But, I took a leave of absence, and during that leave of absence, I again got back into therapy, but I also knew that part of the oppression was that they were trying to silence me. And I refused to be silenced. I refused to be silenced. So I developed a YouTube channel and I started talking about my own healing journey from a toxic job. And what I came to learn, I was shocked that Black women around the world were contacting me and saying, "Oh my God, this is my experience. Are you in my head? Oh my God, thank you for talking about this." And that was about a year ago. So I resigned a year ago. But prior to that time, I was taking, that leave of absence. And then it was a pinnacle moment where I knew that I had to leave that job or something really bad was going to happen to me. So that's how it got started. And then I'm just reinforced by the number of Black women who reach out to me telling me to keep going. Even when I get in my head, like, "Oh, am I talking too much?" Girl, keep on, keep on. We wait for these videos. So every Sunday, I do a Sunday live at 5, in which I have a different Black woman come on talking about her own healing in relation to a toxic job, because I want Black women to see that a lot of us are having this issue. So to validate the experience, I also want Black women to know that, healing is possible. So they've heard it from me. I talk about it all the time on my YouTube channel, which is Lifting As We Climb Consulting Wellness Services. But I want them to see other Black women. And I want them to see you can heal, you can pivot. Because what happens is that fear gets into us and it has like a chokehold on us, right? And then we think we can't leave these toxic jobs. And that's not true. We think that, "Oh my God, if I leave that job, I'm going to be homeless. If I leave that job, I'll never be able to get another job." And I want to counter that. That is not true. That is not true. All the guests that I've had, I have over 200 videos. We're all doing well. Not one of us regrets leaving the toxic job. So I just want to just be clear that it was really informed from my own healing journey, and I'm still healing. So each day I do a video, or each day I come on live, I'm still healing. This is part of my healing process because it was a workplace trauma. And we know that for trauma, how we heal is that we keep talking about it. And it's easier to talk about it the more we talk about it.
Yeah. One, congratulations on being able to leave your toxic workplace. Congratulations on the 1 year on starting your YouTube channel. And thank you for sharing and being a support system for other Black women. I was someone who worked in a very toxic workplace. It was my first salary position. I was so excited. I was working with a Black woman and I felt the psychological lynching that you're mentioning. And at that time, it was impeding on my self-worth. And I was just putting so much out for this job, but it made me not only tired and I spent less time with my son, but it just made me feel less of a person. And I was just in a really dark place. So I wish I found you then, but I
knew somebody like me back then when I was going through it.
So I'm happy to learn about you as a resource now, and I'm definitely going to share with friends who experience toxic workplace, because I was someone who thought like, I have a family to take care of, and like just I thought this salary job was just like, wow, I'm an adult. This like I was just so excited in my dream, and it was just like not what I expected it to be. But working with, or even just one, experiencing a toxic workplace, and two, having conversations with other Black women who have experienced a toxic work environment. How would you define a toxic job? Like, what's the smallest thing that can make a workplace toxic? And then like, what's the largest thing people could experience in a toxic workplace? And then what does a healthy work experience look like?
Okay, those are good questions. So I'm going to tie in what you just shared in terms of what might be perceived as a toxic environment, or how you could tell, because everybody has a different definition of what is toxic, right? But my overall perspective of it is anything that causes you harm in a workplace is toxic. Okay. So when you think about toxic, that's poison. So that poison gets in your body, just like you talked about. It started making you question your self-worth, right? It sparks those feelings of fear. I got to support my family. What's going to happen? So that's the poison going through your body. So if you are starting to recognize, I'm starting to see myself differently, I'm starting to interact with my family differently. And that's the part too that's so disturbing about toxic jobs, because it doesn't harm just you. It harms people who care about you, because they're bearing witness to you being harmed. And then they feel helpless. They feel hopeless, right? And sometimes what happens is that when this stuff happens, so the work many times starts gaslighting us. That's another way we could tell it's toxic. So when they start gaslighting you and we start self-gaslighting ourselves, did I say that? Did I do that? Right? So when they get in your head like that, that's another example of that. And when that happens, that kind of sparks this feeling for us many times as Black women, because we are so committed to doing a good job, because we've been told you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. We've been taught that, right? So what we do is we work harder, right? Like, oh, I must be doing something wrong. Let me work harder. Let me do this. Let me try to get clarity. Let me try all. But the thing is, the game is rigged. It's rigged. So no matter what you do, the system is dysfunctional, right? So when you talked about, Black women, so a lot of women on my channel talk about that in terms of the additional layer of pain when it's a Black woman who is doing this to you, because you are thinking, hey, we're both Black women. You know how hard it was to get here. But when another Black woman does that to you, it can be extremely painful. And so I have a number of videos on my channel talking about all skin folk and kinfolk. So just because somebody's Black doesn't mean that they are really out for you. And some Black women, and this ties into my dissertation where I was talking about social comparison jealousy among Black women. What happens with some Black women is that they are thinking from a perception of lack or scarcity. So they perceive, oh, there's only one space for a Black person or a Black woman here. You know what I mean? So it's going to be me, right? And if another Black woman comes in and they perceive her as a threat, they try to extinguish her or do something to belittle her or make her look bad or whatever. And so that happens to a lot of us in the workplace. So, again, toxicity is anything that makes you feel like this is not right. You know that feeling in your gut, and you're like, this does not feel right. That's toxic. You can tell, what's toxic, but it might look different for each person.
Okay. And so what does a healthy work experience look like?
Oh, that's a good question. And I think that I'm so jaded because not only what I went through, but also hearing so many Black women. It is unbelievable the stories that I hear. If you just go to the video where Stephanie Perry interviewed me, Black women leaving toxic jobs, it was like over 30,000 views and over like 700 comments. If you read those comments from Black women, it will break your heart in terms of what Black women go through, right? And to the point where some Black women even talking about having suicidal thoughts. So it's really serious. So again, from all of this, I'm jaded, right? Now, I have heard other Black women talk about, they've left a toxic job and they've gone to a better environment, right? But I've also heard all too many Black women talk about, I've had multiple toxic jobs. So I'll leave one, I go to another one, right? So I'm going to try the best I can, okay, in terms of a healthy job. So when I first started my job, I think it was a healthy work environment. Okay. So I had 2 Black women supervisors, extremely supportive. I'm still friends with them now. And they saw the value that I brought to the organization and they supported it, right? They supported it. They encouraged me to grow. They shared different opportunities with me. They were always respectful to me and they were respectful to other people. Okay. So I think that would be an example. But once they retired, I was like, oh no, I'm in trouble. And I was, because I had no protection. And they came full on. And I think, again, part of what I want to say is that while that might be an example of a healthy environment, I also want Black women to know that maybe working at a job might not be for you. Maybe you need to own your own business. Maybe that's what God is leading you to do. And I think that's exactly what happened to me, that I was like, no more. I went through that and I was like, I will never let people who cause me harm to have that much influence on me and my family. Never again. Never again. So I hope that Black women are able to find a healthy work environment. I'm just saying I'm a little jaded.
That's understandable. 100%, especially with supporting women who are in those toxic workplaces. It's hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
I would say, as someone who has been out of a toxic workplace since like May 1st, and I feel like I'm more in the healthy work environment, some things that are different or healthy about my new job environment is that I can go talk to the executive director and say, hey, these are the issues that I'm having at work. And he's asking me questions not to see holes or problems that's coming. Yeah, but more so just asking questions to get an understanding of why I'm feeling that way and positioning things from a different perspective. Like, okay, this is what you experienced, but did you consider how your coworker was going through this? And I'm like, you know what? You're right. So she wasn't really being mean to me and just being, that's one thing. Another thing is we have unlimited PTO.
Wow.
PTO, and it just feels good because I feel like, okay, if I need to rest or reset, I have that option to do it without missing out on money from my paycheck.
Yes.
And also just being able to have a open and free schedule. So like they trust that I'm getting my work done. So just working at a company that trusts their employees or trust the people that they hired to get the job done and still be able to take a 2-hour lunch break. So those are some things that helped me realize that my workplace was healthy when they considered me as a person and not an employee.
Yes. Oh my, I love that. I love that. And the thing about it too is that your environment not only represents like transformational strengths-based leadership, but also in terms of valuing your humanity. And many times in these toxic jobs, they dehumanize us. They exploit our labor, they dehumanize us, and then they kind of chew us up and throw us out, right? And, when I say throw us out, I mean in the sense that some Black women die as a result of the stress of being in a toxic job. So it's not just, I was just worn down. No, literally, at my previous toxic job, and I worked for a school district, I saw so many Black women around my age group dying. And that scared me. I was very scared, right? So seeing Black women die, seeing Black women also, again, a little older than me, develop cancer, have heart attacks, strokes. So we have to be very mindful of Black women about how the toxicity is impacting us, right? So the physical, the psychological, and also, I am so proud of you that you were able to leave, right? And find something much better. So I like for people to be able to see there's a range of options, right? So whatever it might be, you have options. You are not stuck. And I also want to say too that because of what I've gone through and because of what Black women are telling me, I'm rechanneling the rage that I experienced because we have every right to feel anger about what has happened to us. We know as Black women, we've been told, no, you can't express anger, the angry Black woman, right? Now we know you can't go off in the workplace, right? But in terms of like channeling that anger, that rage, how are you doing that to save yourself and to save your family, to save your mind? Because you could take whatever skills you got at that job, you could take it somewhere else. And so part of what I'm doing now, so when I think about my healing journey, the first part was talking about it, right? Sharing my journey, sharing things. Now I'm more so in terms of I want to help as many Black women. I say I'm ushering in a movement to help as many Black women as possible to leave and heal from toxic jobs. And so by doing that, I'm channeling my inner Harriet because I want other Black women to channel their inner Harriet, because we all got an inner Harriet, right? But sometimes we might tell her to, no, we can't due to fear, right? I'm helping Black women work through that fear so that they can leave and heal from toxic jobs and find something much better.
Mm-hmm.
And so, on that note, how do you help Black women to leave toxic jobs and actualize fulfilling life? So, what
Yeah.
does it look like in practice for the work that you do in the community that you've built to help women to exit and then to actualize a fulfilling life? And then, are there any successes from your work that you're really proud
Oh, yes. Okay. So I have different stages of liberation. Okay. So, going through a toxic job and even leaving a toxic job is a process. Most people don't wake up one day and say, I'm out of here. Right. It's usually a process. And so I share my process on YouTube. So I have different layers in terms of where you are in terms of the process. So the YouTube videos are accessible to everybody. And this is for Black women who are starting to think, I don't like this job. Like something's not sitting well with me. All Black women can access that. So that's why I am very present on YouTube in terms of talking about different things and sharing resources. So I not only share my journey, I share other Black women, but I share a lot of resources because I want Black women to know these are some resources you can access to get out, particularly therapy. I have a video that talks about how to find a Black therapist, because I know that many times Black women, we want to work with another Black woman. And so I talk about how to find a Black therapist. And I also talk about these are free therapy resources available to you. So YouTube available to everybody. Okay. Then I have a different tier for Black women who are in a toxic workplace and they are so disconnected from themselves because you're in a beat down, right? You're in a beat down and you are so disconnected. You feel lost because that's how I felt. I was so lost. I didn't even know where to start, right? So when I was on that leave of absence, I created a roadmap for myself. Like, these are things I need to address so I can get myself together so I can see where I'm trying to go, okay? So that roadmap, I created a workbook, a digital fillable workbook for Black women. So again, these are the Black women who are like, I want to get out of here, but I'm so lost. So that's the Welcome to Your Queendom digital fillable workbook. And the reason that I have that name is that we are queens, right? But when we're in these work environments, they are dehumanizing us and sending the message that you're less than anything. You're not a queen. You're not anything, right? And we become disconnected from our worth. So the queendom is welcome back to yourself, okay? And then I also came up with the name because when I was graduating from Spelman, our graduation speaker was Oprah Winfrey. And she said, in life, people might try to treat you like a slave girl, but you remember you're a queen girl. And I remember that like it was yesterday. I cannot tell you how many times I think about that. And so I want Black women to remember queens, okay? So that's the next tier, okay? The tier after that is for Black women who are, they're like, okay, I'm clear. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this place. It's killing me. How do I get out? Then I have master classes. So the most recent masterclass that I had was Save Yourself, Channel Your Inner Harriet so you can leave that toxic, hostile job with your sanity and your coins. So I partnered with a Black woman attorney who's also like 30 years in HR, right? So she talks about like, what are the templates you need in terms of really preparing yourself to be empowered when you go interface with HR, because HR typically is not your friend. Okay. So you need to be prepared for what is the language to use. So actual templates. So she talks about the HR part, how to get your coins. I talk about the mental health part, right? So the healing from the workplace trauma, and also the after post trauma after you even leave the toxic job. So I talk about that part, right? So that's the next tier. The next tier up from that is the group coaching. So I have a group coaching program for Black women who are like committed, like I want out of here. Maybe I did the masterclass, but I need some more support. You need to tell me like exactly what I need to do. And I want to be in a community of other Black women. I want to be with my sisters as we talk about it, as we share resources, as we uplift one another. That's the other one, right? And then the highest tier is the VIP one-to-one option, where Black women have the option to work directly with me and I will walk you through. We will come up with a roadmap. We will get that exit plan so you can get ready to get out. So again, I was trying to think about ways that I can provide resources to Black women, no matter where you are on the journey. But ultimately, I want to help anybody who's ready to go, who's thinking about it. I want to help anybody get out. And I don't want you to feel like you're stuck, because there's resources available to you.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Kimani. I mean, all of the things that you're offering, like you said, can reach Black women in a multitude of different ways. And I'm just glad that what you're doing actually exists, right? Because, like you said, all these women are, it's clear that there is a issue across the board in terms of Black women's experiences at work. And I definitely see you as being a trailblazer in this, because before you, I just heard us talking about it.
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
I didn't see someone who was providing, this is the steps, this is the community. I mean, all the things that you provide are exactly what's needed.
Yeah.
So thank you so much
I
for
didn't
sharing.
answer your question. I got so excited. I didn't answer other
Okay.
questions.
Yeah. So
We
any
talked
success
about what am I
stories?
most
Yes.
proud of. Right, all right. So what I'm most proud of is Black women supporting one another in the spaces that I provide, right? So when I go live, how I see women supporting one another. Sis, good. Like if a Black woman said, I just resigned, yay, sis, right? So the community is supporting her. So that's what I'm most proud of when I provide groups or when I do lives, how other Black women are supporting one another. So that makes me most proud. And that other Black women are reaching out to me and encouraging me through this healing journey myself. So like I said, when I get in my head and I'm thinking, am I doing too much? Should I be doing this? Black women reach out to me and they're like, please keep going. Please keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So I am reaffirmed in the power of sisterhood, because I believe in sisterhood. But every time I do a video and I get a positive comment, it reminds me of the power of sisterhood, which counters so many of the negative messages that we get, that Black women don't trust each other. Black women can't work with other. That is not true. Some might have that issue, right? But not most of us. And so that's what I'm most proud of. And from, when I'm able to receive this information, because I really feel like God is downloading this information to me. I honestly feel that way. Like people say, well, how do you come up with these video titles? And I'm like, I just wake up that morning and I just got topics, right? So these things are downloaded to me, but I just want Black women to see by example that when you leave something that's harming you and that you are open, you can receive, right? You can receive, that information is downloaded. So when information is downloaded to me and when I'm more observant of what Black women are saying, then I can provide the need more, right? So Black women, what I've also heard them say is, I want to leave, but I have bills to pay. I want to leave, but how am I going to live? I want, like, all these things, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a masterclass with a Black woman financial psychologist who's going to talk to you about how to get your money right? How to prepare, how to get your money right so you can leave, right? So I am listening to what the needs are. And then, because I used to work in the school district, I cannot tell you how many Black women in school districts are being terrorized. It is unbelievable how treacherous school districts are, okay? So because of that, then I'm going to have another masterclass that is specifically for Black women educators. So that's what I'm most proud of, is that Black women tell me this is what we need, and then I'm able to work with other Black women to provide that service.
I have a question. So you're sharing that one thing that you feel is a success is that you're continuously being supported by Black women who need your help, and just also other Black women like me and Kamisha who are just happy to have you here to support other Black women who are going through this. And I'm also thinking about earlier in the conversation when you mentioned how Black women can also be a part of the toxic workplace where we feel like there's only room for one Black woman.
Yeah.
Or even we bring our unhappiness in the workplace and we create a toxic environment for the other Black woman. And I'm also all about growing and holding other Black women accountable, because how else will they know that this is not an okay thing to do?
Yeah.
Show them that, like, Kamisha and I were just talking about positive thinking and just thinking patterns. And so, like, how can Black women who are a part of the toxic work environment, how can they acknowledge that and find a way to fix it? Because sometimes we can be adding to the toxic environment. So how can we
Absolutely.
hold ourselves accountable?
Absolutely. Well, first, I have some videos on that. So if you're watching this, right, or if you think that somebody might be a bully, I have some videos to talk about. Sis, are you the workplace bully? Or sis, get your foot off my neck, right? So are you?
I like this.
Get your foot off my neck, right? So what are you doing? And we know that anybody who engages in negative behaviors like that, workplace bullies or other negative behaviors, we know that they are deeply insecure people. We know that, right? We know that hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
The problem is that some people are so unhappy that the job then defines who they are. So they become territorial, and it's a thought that somebody else might try to take that. They become territorial. So the first step is awareness. Like, check yourself, sis. Like, you are doing this, okay? So the first part is the awareness. The second part is get some help, get some therapy. You need therapy, because if you are intentionally causing harm to other people, or even if you say, oh, I didn't know, which I don't believe, right? Even if you say, I don't know, you are getting feedback some kind of way that you're hurting other people. You are getting that feedback. You need to get help, because you're not happy. There's something wrong with you, right? And something that also I learned in terms of my experience is projected incompetence. So something might happen in terms of people might be nitpicking things you're doing, right? But it's their own projected incompetence. So again, for all Black women, right? Because as we are in the workplace, we're always self-assessing ourselves. I'm saying all Black women, please self-assess yourself. Please self-assess how you're interacting with other people, particularly other Black women. If you recognize that you are doing this stuff, or you've received feedback that you're doing that stuff, get some help, get therapy. You're not healthy. You're not healthy. You're not happy. I know you're not. Okay. So get help. Get help.
Thank you. I know. Yeah. Thank you for answering that question. I'm
Oh,
glad.
yeah.
That was a really good question. Yeah.
Sis, do you see what you're doing? Like, would you want somebody to treat you like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah.
And so, for our listeners who are ready to leave a toxic job, what are some tips that you have for them to get started?
Yes. So first is the self-awareness. So the sitting with yourself, pausing, resting, because as Black women, we always doing something, right? We're busy. We're doing this. We're doing that. I got to take care of this. I got to take care of that, right? That's a trauma response, right? So we have to slow down and pause. And when we slow down and pause, listen to what your soul is telling you. Your soul is telling you something. If you're dreading any day of your life because of a job, that's a sign. If you are like, oh God, 5 o'clock on Sunday that I used to be, right? I've had Black women talk about they're crying on their way to work. They're crying leaving work. Once they leave work, they keep talking about the job. Everybody in their family, their friends know about the people at the job. Like, if that's you, then that's a sign. Maybe I need to, right? So those are the initial things, right? The awareness, number one. Number two, if you're in a toxic job and you're like, this is toxic, this is harming me. The second thing is, please, if you can, take a leave of absence, because it gives you some moment to kind of just rest, regroup a little bit, and start thinking about, okay, what do I want and how do I get out of here, right? Then the third thing is therapy, because this can really be traumatizing. And so when we think about the trauma toxicity, again, we just talked about that. It gets in your head, you start second guessing yourself, and it might play out in other areas of your life. It might spill over to your personal life, to your relationships, all these other things. So therapy. The fourth would be coaching. So that helped me tremendously. So when I was on a leave, I got Black women coaches. I still have Black women coaches. So Black women coaches help you in terms of, okay, so where's it that you're trying to go? They'll help you with that. And they'll help you with the roadmap, the steps. Okay, let's do this, this, and this, right? They kind of walk with you as you're able to pivot. And then the other part is access the resources that I shared with you. So again, no matter where you are on the stages, there are resources available to you, but we have to have an open hand to receive them. So many times we have this fear response and we say, oh, I can't do that. What you just trying to tell us to leave our jobs? Are we going to be homeless? That's a fear response. So when we start doing that, pause and say, where's this coming from? Why am I getting so riled up? Why am I getting so riled up? And I'm projecting that onto other people. Let me say this too. Be mindful of who you share information with. So when you're in a toxic job, I strongly advise you to not talk to other people at the job about what's happening. Now, you can do some reality testing because the gaslighting gets in your head and you're like, did this happen? Now you could be like, did that just happen? Right. But don't vent to them. Don't do all that other stuff because I've heard of way too many times, and I know I've experienced it myself, way too many times where you have shared some information that you thought you could trust this person or somewhat trust them, and it comes back and comes against you. Okay. So do not vent to people at your job. The other thing is be mindful of what you share and who you share it with. So there might be people in your circle, might even be parents, okay, that you say, this job, I can't stand it. It's harming me. I want out of here. And they will try to convince you to stay. They will say, girl, you better not leave that job. That's a good job. What? Well, what you gonna do? You got responsibilities.
Yeah.
If you know those people, if you know how they respond, right? Don't share with them all your information. Don't share with them. I didn't tell my mother when she came back at me like that. I didn't tell her I had resigned till like 6 months after. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, I resigned. I'm doing well. I couldn't deal with all of that stuff because you don't need to deal with all that extra stuff. So those are just the overall. I do want to say two more quick things though. One is that, and I'm going to do a video on this, that the research is out in terms of the impact that toxic situations have on Black women to the point where we are dying earlier and we are developing cardiovascular disease earlier. So issues like racism, sexism, external issues in the environment can really impact us, right? So this is very serious. So I'm going to do a video that talks about all the research about that. The other thing I want to talk about in terms of research, in terms of what many Black women may experience, is the experience of pet to threat. So pet to threat was created by 3 Black women researchers, Dr. Juanita Johnson Bailey, Dr. Keisha Thomas, Dr. Rosemary Phelps. I got to give them credit, right? Because people try to steal their work. So I'm calling out their names. So anyway, and I've had them on my channel too. Pet to threat deals with when a Black woman is brought in because, oh my gosh, she's so smart. Oh, we can't wait to have her. She's so smart. Oh, she's just going to transform this organization, right? So she's brought in and she's shining. She's doing all these outstanding things. She's treated like the pet. But as soon as she starts getting more shine than other people, particularly those in leadership position, it switches, right? Switches. So you're not only seen, but you're treated like a threat. Okay. So many of us have had this experience, but we don't have the terminology. We're like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. It's pet to threat. Okay. So there's research that talks about that as well. And again, I'm sharing this because I want to just validate the experiences that many of us have in these toxic work environments.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Kimani. The pet to threat, I'm sure you've also seen this other chart of like, I think it's for women of color or Black women once they're in a leadership position and how they end up exiting the organization. It's just like the pet to threat, but they talk about like the gaslighting, it's like they build you up to break you down pretty much.
And the glass cliff. So the glass cliff, I saw this on LinkedIn. So the glass cliff is when a Black woman is brought into like an impossible situation. So let's say the organization's crumbling, they're about to go out of business, all this stuff. They bring in a Black woman. It was impossible for her to do well, right? They bring her in and then they bring her in and guess what? Nobody's supporting her. So of course she's going to fail, right? So it's all these different dynamics that we need to be aware of in terms of the mind games and how they are setting us up for failure. And the reason I'll talk about this too is that I want people to be clear. It's not just one or two people, the whole system is toxic, right? So the water's dirty. You know what I'm saying? The water's dirty. We're drinking the water. It's going to get into our system too.
Great. Well, thank you. I mean, you just dropped so many gems, so
Yeah.
much great information. How can people stay connected to you and the work that you're doing?
Yes, thank you. So first, check out my YouTube channel. So I have over 200 videos talking about this issue. Check into the lives I have every Sunday at 5 o'clock on YouTube. And my YouTube channel is Lifting as We Climb Consulting Wellness Services. So I have that name because I know that I got here because other people reached for me. And I'm reaching for as many Black women as I can, but you got to have your hand open. Okay. And my business also focuses on Black women supporting other Black women. So just as you are accessing resources, my ask is that any Black woman who is in a toxic job, or even if you're not, which is hard to believe that you haven't had a toxic job before, but that you reach out and you share resources to another Black woman or women. So in terms of offering her support, don't step on her neck. Like I've had experiences, sister stepping on my neck. Let's be supportive of other Black women. And also, how are you sharing resources with her or with other Black women about how to get out of a toxic job? So that's number one. Go to my YouTube channel, Lifting as We Climb Consulting Wellness Services. Watch the videos, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell so then that way you know when I go live or when I post something new, and then share those videos with other Black women. That's the easiest way, okay? Now, if you want more support, like in terms of what I talked about before, the resources that I mentioned before in terms of the tiers of liberation, that you can access all of those in the description section of my YouTube videos, okay? So once you look at the video, you see the description section, you can access all the resources that I mentioned. And in terms of therapy, I want to say this too, I'm in California, but I'm not taking any more therapy clients because my focus really is to help as many Black women get out, to help as many Black women get out. And I can't do that only in therapy. And so I have my caseload. I love my clients. They're mostly Black women, but I have other clients too. But I really am committed to this work. So I'm not taking any more therapy clients, but I do have other ways to support you. And again, you can access that on my YouTube channel. Also, you can go to my website, which is liftingasweclimbconsulting.com.
Thank you, Dr. Kimani, for everything that you've shared today. We do have one last segment, which is our hot topic. And it is, what are your thoughts on the shifts happening in the workplace and work-life alignment over the past 3 years?
Oh, well, there's a lot of research that talks about how Black people have really thrived working remotely because they don't have to deal with the racism and all these other things, these toxic workplaces. So that has been a major shift. However, what we're seeing now is that people are being asked to come back in the workplace. People are like, oh my God, I don't want to go back there. That's just a dread. And this recognition of how toxic the job was. So sometimes when we're in it and you're like working, you may not recognize it. But when you have time away and you have time to reflect on your life, and I know that during this time, a lot of people have reflected on their life. Like, what is my life about? What's happening? What direction am I going in? When you have some distance and you can self-reflect, people are like, this is not the life that I wanted for myself. And what do I need to do to get out? The other thing is that even if you are working remotely, I think more people are aware of ways that people, and one of my clients said this, she said, people could try to bully you through the laptop. So even if you're at home, they can still be trying to bully you through a Zoom meeting. Okay. But I think more of us are more aware of this is not what I want for myself. And I want something different. So I just say to people, if you want something different, please go pursue that.
Yes. Yes, and I like the shifts in the workplace. Even as myself as an employer, it's definitely pushed me, like all of the people who work on our team have pushed me to rethink what work can look like.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, with therapy being so accessible virtually now, I think it does really make a big impact on our team members' well-being because they don't have to go in the office every day. Like
Mm-hmm.
they can do work from home, they can have more flexible schedules. So I definitely think the shifts and being flexible are great.
Yeah.
And, if someone is working somewhere where, they got to deal with that person, like you said, on your neck, they can't be on your neck in the house,
No,
at least physically.
no.
And you can choose when you respond. It just allows that safe distance,
Yeah,
which I think is really, really great.
agreed.
Jay, did you have anything
I
you
don't
want
have
to
to
share?
share on a hot topic. I have to agree. I do like the more remote work that's available because I know in my position, remote work is very much accepted. But I have the issue of feeling like I need to be in the office to get stuff done, and it's just because if I'm at home, I feel like I don't get as much done. I get a lot of house stuff done. you know, I wake up, check the email, and I'm like, okay, I can do laundry. Oh, I can hang out my bed. Like my mindset is not at work; it's at
Yeah,
home, and so
yeah.
I'm able to get more work done at home. But I know, like my first or second day at my current job, my boss asked me, "What do I need to thrive in this position?" And I was like, "I cannot get off at 5 o'clock. I know I'm 9 to 5, but if I get home to my child, I'll get home to him like 6:30, and he goes to bed at 8:30. I want to be able to still be a mom and spend time with my child." And he was like, "Okay, you can leave at 3." Well, I gave him the 3 time, and so
Wow.
way that flexibility and being able to have a salary job and work 6-hour days so that I can come home and be with my son.
Love that.
Yeah,
That
so
makes me happy. You know why? Because part of what I want to do is not only to help Black women, but I want employers to be put on notice that you cannot treat people horribly. You
yeah,
just can't do that, right? Because you're going to end up losing employees, all this other things. But
yeah,
see that when you listen to what your employees are saying, what they need, how do I help you? How to help support you? What do you need? Now you're more committed to the organization. You
I
want
don't
to
even go
do
to work.
better.
I get to work between 8 and 8:30. I'm like, you gonna do this for me? I'm gonna do this for you. And when I'm at work, like,
Like I'm like, why do you not get this? I mean, do you really think that by terrorizing people, disrespecting people, dehumanizing people, that number one, they're going to stay? No. Number two, you're going to burn them out to such a degree that they're not going to be able to perform to their best abilities. So it's counterproductive to anything you're trying to do. You're going to end up losing money, and eventually your company's going to run out of business. It's going to go out of business because nobody's going to want to work there, right? And something that the attorney told me, who that I do the masterclass with, she advises Black women when you leave a toxic job, give a rating of that job on Open Door or Glassdoor or whatever, so
Glassdoor.
other Black women know do not work there. Do not work there. So
yes,
that's another tip.
yes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kamani, for being here for the Quick Tip podcast. I definitely enjoyed just learning so much more about what you offer and just the experience that you have personally, but also the experiences that you're learning from other Black women. And one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on this series, Black Women at Work, is because at Sista Afya, we're seeing so many women who are coming in with mental health concerns related to what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that this is like you've already identified is a widespread issue that's impacting people's mental wellness. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you and the work that you're doing.
Thank
We can all close out with just a quick tip based on the topic. So my quick tip is to get connected to Dr. Kamani, watch her YouTube videos. I actually had a client that just left a toxic job, and the first person I recommended was for her to connect with your YouTube channel. And she
Awesome.
came back the next week and she said that she just felt heard, she felt seen, she felt so connected. So don't doubt YouTube in terms of like that as being therapeutic, because it can be helpful.
Thank
Yes.
you, Keisha. That was beautiful.
I would say my final quick tip, brief but not brief. One is to establish boundaries, like leaving work issues at work and creating a post-work routine. So if that's as soon as you, first of all, clock out at at 5 o'clock or whatever your time is, clock out on time and have something in mind already. Even if this is an everyday thing, this can be once a week. If it's taking a walk, meditation, yoga, treating yourself to a nice dinner, have something ready for you after work that will make you feel good and keep your self-worth high. The second thing is, if you're preparing your exit strategy, identifying green flags at potential new companies and organizations so that you won't end up in the same toxic work environment. And that can be hard to do because even on the resume, things always can look good on paper, but ensure that you do your research, ask questions in your interview. When was the last, like in the last 3 months, when was the last time you got off work on time and did not work a weekend? Like, ask important questions. Do not back off on hard questions because that's how you know what you're stepping into.
I love that. And in addition to that, do your research. Go on Open Door. Look at it's a Glassdoor.
It's a glass door.
Glassdoor, right? Go on Glassdoor. Go on all these different sites to see how do other people review that organization or comment on that organization. If you know people who work there, ask them, would you advise someone? Would you reapply to this job? Would you recommend that I work there? So that's the first thing. The second thing is pay attention to yourself and do not lie to yourself. Do not lie to yourself about how you're feeling about the job. If the job is harming you, don't lie to yourself. And if you're stuck by fear, get the support you need to get out. That's the second thing. The third thing, I just want people to know this as Black women, when you leave a toxic job, you are not a quitter. You are not giving up. You are walking away. You're walking away and you're saving yourself and you're saving your family. So let us challenge that perspective of, you're not going to run me out of here. I'm not a quitter. No. You are leaving something that is harming you or not a quitter. You're a winner because you're taking your power back. So take your power back and get out of situations that are harming you.
Yes.
Thank you all for your quick tips. So this is our first episode in our Black Women at Work series. Our next episode will be talking about emotional intelligence in the workplace with Farrah Harris. So stay tuned for our next episode focused on that. Thank you again, Dr. Kimani, for everything that you shared today.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the next episode. Take care and be well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quick Tip Podcast with Sista Afya. Stay connected with us by following us on Instagram and Facebook at Sista Afya. Join us for one of our upcoming groups, classes, or workshops, and sign up for therapy if you're an Illinois resident at www.sistaafya.com/services. And if you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We greatly appreciate you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Take care.